IMHO Talk Show.
We're going to close out the show in true IMHO fashion with none other than Sir Charles.
Miss Max.
Razor.
And when I say true fashion, is because we have a very familiar guest, familiar voice. Right?
What'd you say? What'd you say?
Oh, no, I mean, I was getting to you. Bro. We man.
I feel like Ty like to come to his interviews and snatch the mic.
Eddie, I'm gonna start calling Ty Eddie Kane. Ty says it's my stage now. Yeah, but we are joined by none other than our brother. Been around this Charlottesville community for a while, handling business. None other than Ty Cooper. Ty, good afternoon to you, man.
It's good to be here.
Yeah, man. Always, man. Thank you for joining us and helping us close out the show today. And when you and I were chatting too about this 14th annual United Nations of Comedy and sort of the new faces and sort of the change up, the way this lineup looks, is it may be bigger and better than ever. What would you say?
Comedy is very subjective, so it's to each his own. But it's one of the shows I'm very excited about because I have never worked with one of the comedians, Paris Saget, who I added to the show, replaced Emma Willman.
Okay.
So it's blacker than ever, I can tell you that.
Yeah. Well, code word.
Yeah, code word. but we have it's I would say the comedians, their styles, I was able to stay to what I try to do every year, where I try to make sure that the personalities on that stage are all different. It's very diverse voices and diverse, style. So, everyone knows Skiba. He's animated, and I think that, I wanted to keep that there. But then you have people like Anthony DeVito, who is a lot less animated, but his comedy is so witty. And his punchlines are like just cutting. And then Jordan Walker's the way he is and Paris the way she is. So, I stayed true to that. So it's still the same energy and vibe, but definitely she's like the one I have never worked with yet. And I got lucky to have her because she just so happened to be available on that day, but she's working the day before and working the day after. So it was a blessing. Okay. Yeah. So I just upscaled the show.
Nice. And we are talking about the 14th annual United Nations of Comedy Tour. It's returning on Saturday, November 16th, of course, at the Paramount Theater. Doors going to open at 7, showtime at 8 o'clock. Tickets are still available. You got VIP available as well as the standard tickets.
Yeah, this year is the first year that we did reserve seating. Usually it's general admission, so you buy a ticket, you sit anywhere you want. But this time you got to buy the ticket for your seat. So it's different.
Yeah. Now for those that may be new, because we're talking 14 years, Ty. Like you ain't a young man anymore. 14 years ago you were a young man.
Yeah,
but 14 years, man. What is it? But what is it about, because you being, such an entrepreneur, to go 14 years with this, what is it about this comedy tour that makes you go for yet another year?
It really hasn't been 14. It's 14 at the Paramount. I started the tour in 2002. Okay. So we traveled the country many, many times. And then I started bringing it to, not to Charlottesville, because Charlottesville, the first show in Charlottesville was before that. It was at UVA. And then I had it at Sax Jazz Lounge and I had it somewhere else. But then when I joined the board of the Paramount Theater in 2011, that's when I started bringing it there so I could show them, because, it wasn't that diverse back in 2011 at the Paramount, the programming. So I kind of showed them, I had a tete-a-tete with the marketing department because I didn't like what was happening over there. And then I said, you know what? Let me show you how to promote diversity in this theater, because this is a community theater. So you have to have the faces that represent the community, not the white folks with the gray hair. And it was a tete-a-tete, man. It was a little thing. It was. Yeah.
You almost got put off the board.
No, never that. No, they begged me to be on the board. But and the board wasn't an issue at the time, but it was just the management and the marketing department, and I just didn't like how things were going. So I bought my events to show them how to promote diversity. So the best of both worlds, dance and step competition and the comedy tour, the United Nations. And that's how it got to the Paramount. And I've been doing it ever since, just to kind of diversify the downtown mall, particularly back then when people were really complaining, saying that the downtown mall is not for Black people and all this stuff. And I bought my events there. And I was like, well, that's one less excuse you have, although it's only 2 events. But then the Paramount started to promote more diverse events and stuff
Mhm.
like that over time, and we are here where we are today. So
Yeah.
you know what I mean. But yes, I am an old man. Yes,
Me too, bro.
The long,
You know, me too.
the long route to that answer. Yeah, no, I've been doing it for a long time, and I just don't stop doing what I do typically. I used to promote the Black Ski Fest and all that. I created that back in 1993. College Weekend at Kings Dominion, Freaknik in Atlanta, Black College Reunion in Daytona Beach. So I did stop those, but typically I don't stop doing events and stuff like that, especially if I'm living in the community. So this is something that I just continue doing, and people love it. People anticipate it, and it's subjective. People love the comedian. Sometimes people may not like a comedian, but I try to put 4 or 5 comedians on one show so that way I know you're going to like somebody, if not all. And that's why I consistently do it.
I feel like these comedy shows sometimes are healthy in a lot of ways, and healthy in the cities that they're coming to, right? Because it's almost like an educational lesson or a lecture. Like, let me tell you what's wrong with you, right?
Cultural
like,
education.
So are you living vicariously through these 4 comedians right here? Are they saying what you can't say in Charlottesville?
Well, I say what I want to say anyway. I never let anyone stifle my voice. Either you like me or you don't. It's all good. But at least people know that I try my best to do good things here and stuff like that. But yeah, they do represent my voices. You know, I think so. I think they
represent all of ours at some point or another.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. And that's how I want people to feel too. You know, like Paris Ajay, she's a gay comedian, you know, and her jokes she's freaking hilarious, man. I just hope, you know what I'm asking her, I didn't ask her this yet, but I'm gonna tell her, say, hey, look, I know, you know, you go when you travel, you do all your different jokes sometimes. I said, but there's these jokes I want you to say right here because Charlottesville will love it. But yeah, so you know, I just try to I would say they represent my voices, and I hope they represent the audience voices as well.
Yeah, and when you talk about, you know, this tour starting even before you brought it to Charlottesville.
Yeah, 2002.
Yeah, so you know, as we've talked about before, Charlottesville is a very peculiar place, and I can imagine that when you're trying to reach certain audiences in the different towns that you go to, you may have to look at the lineup, you know, for that reason. So when you talk about, you know, Black folks feeling welcome in the public theater, welcoming, you know, the Black community in and stuff like that for the shows, like what's that thought process like? Because again, small town and stuff, people know you personally, and not just you, but I'm saying in general, people who do business in small town, most of the time, a lot of people are going to know you, and they sometimes will base your business off of personal stuff because it's a small town. So, you know, so I'm just curious in the thought process of when you bring it to Charlottesville, like what are the benchmarks that you're looking for to be like, this is what we need in Charlottesville?
Yeah, I just want people to be really funny, you know, really to really like Max said, more of like an education, right? So culturally though, you know, cultural education. I like comedians to be able to joke about themselves, their religion, their race, and joke about all the everyone else as well. It's like an equal opportunity to get joked on, you know, but you can't eliminate yourself from being joked on. So if you're going to assassinate someone else, you got to assassinate yourself. And the best way you assassinate yourself is you assassinate yourself, your kids, your mom, then everyone else is free game. You can assassinate anyone, but if you talk about your family and you kind of like chop them up, then you could chop up a person with a disability because they look at you as like, okay, oh, he destroyed his own family. So now, okay, it's cool. So really, when it comes down to
it's an art. It's an art.
It's an art. Yeah. So when I choose comedians, I look at some stuff like that, but then also when I look at Charlottesville or the Eastern Shore or North Carolina or Memphis or all the places I've been, I do kind of. There's a comedian that I brought here in 2014 who I met in Canada, in Toronto. I was scouting comedians in Toronto at this club called Yuck Yucks back then. And I saw the comedian Aaron Berg. I bought him. Yeah, and he killed the front row. And this woman said that she felt trauma. She hasn't come to my event since then.
Wow.
So there's certain comedians, certain location like a Charlottesville, I am kind of careful. Like I don't do censorship. But Aaron was super, super hard. He was hilarious. But this customer came to my show every year. She even followed me to Harrisonburg to come to that those shows. And so I got to be mindful, but I don't censor.
Yeah.
But
I mean, people got to know that though. You come
hard,
into a comedy show
and you're on the first row.
Yeah.
Come
like
on.
unless it's a family event,
if I promote it as such,
but if it's explicit, you
But so I don't do censorship, but I do. But I am mindful of Charlottesville. But hey, do y'all come to the film festival? I saw you there. I saw some of you. Did anyone go to see Anora? The opening night film on Wednesday.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about though.
Yeah, it was dope, and it was like loaded in there. It was packed, but it was very sexually explicit.
Yeah.
And there a couple of people walked out, but everyone else stayed. It was a beautiful film. You know what I'm saying? So some people are a little more sensitive than others. But I also I try to appeal to the masses,
right,
and not just 5 people who may walk out of a show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I am mindful though. So like Aaron, I would take him somewhere else, but I can't bring him to Charlottesville.
Right. Yeah. And you being a promoter and stuff, and Razor brings up music a lot. We have this conversation about like the impact of arts on, on communities or even on the youth and things of that sort. Like, what's your take on that? Being someone who has been a promoter across entertainment, genres or what have you. Like, are you one? I don't know if I ever asked you this question, but are you one that believes that art is entertainment, or do you feel like that it should reflect life and it should be taken literally?
Well, I think all art imitates life. That's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to imitate life. If it's fine art, if it's music, if it's film, it's supposed to imitate life. But I'm a little bit more, as I'm older, I'm a little bit more hard. Although I don't appreciate censorship in art, I'm a little bit more finicky when it comes down to like music. Like, I don't want my granddaughter, listening to drill music and then emulating that, because art imitates life, and people imitate what they hear, and what they see and stuff like that. Sometimes if it's repetitive and if it's hitting the brain, because that's just how our brain works. Particularly when a person is young and they're developing, you can influence them so easily, especially over repetition, right? Yeah. So I don't want my daughter listening to drill music to where she's gonna say, Papa, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna slide on somebody. I'm gonna spin the block. I'm like, yo, what the hell are you talking about? Spin the block. Like, you know what I mean? So I don't want her to tell to me and tell me those things. So I think as parents and stuff like that, we need to just kind of like
age appropriate, right?
Keep our kids away from the art form or some stuff as much as we can. You can't control them when they're out of your house. You can't control them when they outside of your presence. So I don't think that it's the responsibility of the artist, but I do think the household, the parents, that little village that the kids have should be the ones that at least try to limit it. Like, although you may love it, when you got your kid in the back seat, change the radio, put something else on for them that's appropriate for them. So that's kind of where I lean on with that. Like, many times I wanted to hear something, and I'm like, damn, my granddaughter, I gotta, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Many times I wanted to hear something, but hey, you not a sacrifice, but you put your likes and desires aside and turn on. So I said, what you want to hear, baby girl? And she said she want to hear some kind of Asian. Is this fast? Like, they speaking really fast. It's crazy. I'm like, yo, I don't understand what and she be singing this.
Yeah. Hey, Max, I don't know if you're gonna change gears. I had something else along these lines.
I was just gonna say, Dave Chappelle happens to be my favorite comedian, and wondered what Whose Ties was, but there we go.
He's my favorite now.
You should bring him here.
He's my favorite. No, it's too expensive, and no one will go and see him. Oh,
come on, Ty.
Yeah. The people would say
they wouldn't come to see him.
People would, but the people who we want to would not spend the $150, $200 to see it.
So, that's going to take to bring him here.
Yeah, and so that means that the crowd's going to be someone else, and I can't afford to really sacrifice that kind of funds anyway to bring him. He's too big, too big, too expensive. But my all-time favorite is Richard Pryor.
Okay,
and he is my favorite now in like this new age of like comics.
Okay,
yeah.
Let me ask y'all this though. So, on this same vein, Tony Hinchcliffe. Does that name ring a bell to anybody? So Tony Hinchcliffe is the comedian that the Republicans hired to speak at Madison Square Garden.
I saw that.
Right. So
I saw that.
Of course, a lot of people have been offended by comments he made. Like he's the one that called Puerto Rico a floating pile of garbage.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like that was one of the many things that he said.
I remember that.
And like he even made a comment about black folk razor about for Halloween that we don't carve pumpkins, we carve watermelon. So is it art? I mean, good jokes, right? Good joke. But is this saving grace that he's a comedian and this is art? Or being that it was a political rally, is that why people took it serious and didn't see it as him just being funny? Because he was there to promote a presidency. So does that make a difference in his comedic art?
Well, I think one thing is that we got to look at the platform, right, that was given to him, right? The platform was given to him by the Republicans, and you have someone who people refer to as a big time racist, misogynistic person, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So this comedian is actually working for that man. He's a representation of that man doing that on that platform. So whatever he says, he's representing, that's the voice of that man who's paying to him, even with the Republican Party paying him, whatever. But the reality is that that person who's at the helm and the person who is, who platform that really is, because that person running for president, anyone who says anything is supposed to be representing him.
Right.
So any of those jokes,
I feel you.
those statements, those jokes, quote unquote, are the voice of, it's the voice of him, right? Or they wouldn't have hired him because they already know what kind of content the guy's going to say.
Right.
And that's how,
I'm with you.
and it's shown, that candidate has previously shown and through his actions and through some of his own words, that's how he feels anyway.
Yep.
So it was nothing that wasn't true based on what they feel. But yes, was it disheartening to hear that people in 2024 really feel that way about an island, a place where people actually habitat, people live, who they represent? That's craziness. But hey, if you're on the other side, then you should be happy that he insulted them, because hopefully that changed their vote.
Won't vote for him.
And and then a lot of Cubans are very conservative, right? Yeah. Now he didn't say Cuba, at least in that moment. I don't know. I didn't listen to him. I just heard some of the sound bites. But a lot of times when you have you have Puerto Ricans who are living in Miami, and you have Cubans living in Miami. Cubans vote for the Republicans mostly. You're right. Maybe they have friends and they're like, yo, bro, like you're gonna vote for him, and you hear how you talking about us, although you're not from Puerto Rico, but you and I are friends, we are brethren. Hey, maybe it will turn the tide. Maybe it will be something that it will benefit the other side.
And there's some people listening who disagree, because you just said, of course, make fun of your wife, make fun of your kids, make fun of disabled people. It's all an art form. So
no, I agree with that. Like I don't think that he should be censored. I don't believe in censorship. But what I'm saying is that what
he was speaking for the candidate.
He was speaking for the candidate. So if someone who he was talking about actually was going to vote for him and still vote for him, then that person's an imbecile, because now you know for sure how he feels about you, because he let a mouthpiece who he hired talk and say things that maybe he wouldn't say exactly. That's the way I see it.
Well, can I ask y'all this, Charles and Ty and Max? Isn't it okay if I am a racist, if I believe that my country was better another way, if I believe that what the Black Panther Party did exalted my people and helped us and things of that nature, isn't it okay for me to let the world know where I stand? So I don't have a problem when people say things negatively. Just because they're going for a president does not mean that their viewpoints have to be lied and faked to give me a false sense of a community, so to speak, that does not exist. I much rather them say how they feel and what they know to do. So you at least know, okay, there's nothing for me over there. Right. Even though I might want to put on a Brooks Brothers suit, and I got nothing against Brooks Brothers, but I'm going to put on a Brooks Brothers suit and I want to go over there and I want to think that their ice is colder. And I feel like, I want to be anti-ghetto, and being anti-ghetto is going to a PWI school and doing all these things, right? If you want to put yourself under that gun, knowing how they feel about you, that's your right. But I much rather him say these type things, and so there's no there's no debate about where they stand. We don't look at it because they're president. They're supposed to act like everything is kumbaya. I think that's what got black people in trouble the first place when we came to Charles, what is called not segregation, integration. Like they wanted us to integrate our money and not our black faces, right? And then everybody wants to be black and copy black sayings and doings until the police come. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I actually can appreciate when somebody draws a line that say, no, I am a racist. I like the way things are ran when we run it or you run it or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I can operate better in that realm.
It's just that has these standards, which keeps us from talking reckless in the same way that they do on a public platform. And we don't have the social power, as Charles spoke about earlier during the show, to be able to say how we really feel in these spaces and still, accomplish whatever it is that we're trying to do.
Like I agree with you, Razor, but the point is that then, so I'm not upset with you for being honest. I'm upset with us for still supporting you. You gonna spit in our face, and then we still gonna support you.
Yeah, that's
what I'm upset about.
That's craziness.
Sometimes you just gotta let fools go.
Yeah, that's craziness. And for me, and that's the thing about comedy, though. Comedy is supposed to be honest, right? So if we have a comedian that's being honest with himself and who he is and who he representing, like the candidate, then hey, I heard some of it. And I was like, it's distasteful, but it's comedy. And where I stand, like I said earlier, I don't really censor. So I'm like, all right, that could be kind of funny, But then I could also would like to see another comedian on the other side talk about the cats and dogs that Trump would say people eating. And watch, I guarantee that somebody on this show is going to probably submission something about that because it's so current, and they are smart comedians. Right. They all very smart comedians. So I'm sure something, and they probably custom tell the joke for it. Yeah. Right? And the people going to laugh, even if they're Republicans in our audience, which they definitely will be, and if it's Dems in our audience or liberals or independents. Yeah, it's just jokes. Right. But it's also a reflection of what's happening. Any good comedian is going to talk about current events. Yeah. What's happening, what's the buzz things, what's going on here. They're going to research Charlottesville to see what they could talk about. Like I have Cville, it was kind of early, right? But after 2017, because I was in August, right, when they came here and everything happened, my comedy show was in November, right? So, but he did it in good taste. It was a joke, you know what I'm saying? But it was a good taste. You got to be smart. Comedian had to be smart. Absolutely. That guy was just kind of like a little bit reckless, but
a well-written joke can make anything funny.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And even in 2000, what was it? 2000 when they took over the planes, in 9/11.
01. Yeah.
Well, that was September. I had a show in and I think it was November, and one of the comedians had had a towel and put the towel on his head, like he had a joke about the
Taliban.
Yeah, the Taliban, and it was funny as hell. People was dying laughing. Some time went by, it wasn't that much time, but some time went by. I thought it was gonna be pretty early, but the people needed that relief because he did not joke about people dying. Yeah, that's not what it was. It was more about the towel and then people being in fear. So his joke was about the fear of anyone who doesn't look like you or who may represent a Muslim nation, when the reality is that that's racism on our behalf. Because if we're looking at everyone and we think about the towels, like everyone who practiced that faith is going to take over a plane because you're on the plane because you see someone dressed in a garb. Right. So the intelligence of that comedy allowed him to like break down something culturally and then put the mirror in front of our face, be like, damn, then we just as bad as anyone else. That's comedy. And that's what I look for when I try to hire comedy. I like smart comedy. I don't like some comedy that people just cursing every 5 seconds. That's whack. Like anyone could curse.
Yeah, and you know what else in Razor makes me think of too, the parallel with the comedy and even, you know, like the election that we're talking about is, again, the freedom that we say that we want. If it was the even playing fields, if it was like, yeah, y'all just be free, do what you want, y'all keep y'all people over there, you leave us alone. But we know from history and currently that that is not how it works.
Yeah, it's chaos.
Like, it's like they want to keep a foot on our neck, but then act like, let me just deregulate everything. So to me, the power structure is the power that be.
Okay, yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Kid, like, because in politics, the two major parties, you got two sides. You have the folks who are a little heavier with like regulations. Some people say bigger government. You got the folk who say that they're more conservative and it's more about like leave it up to the like to the people. It should be free reign.
Right.
The issue is that it can be free reign if we had the same freedoms, but we know from experience and from the way laws are set up that the fact is that we don't have that free reign. Like when we've tried it, our neighborhoods have been burnt down.
Yep.
And so, you know what I mean? When we're supposed to have that free reign. Yep. So, but I say all that though, because the comedy part, it's like, if we look at that microcosm, you look at what Richard Pryor did. You look at
Gregory.
You look at what even Kevin Hart is doing now. They built these ecosystems, these enterprises that allowed them and folks like them to come up and to have that freedom to be able to say, we can say what we want and do what we want because we own our companies. You know, you follow what I'm saying? So when we get to that part, even as citizens and as people, then that's when we're ready to be like, yeah, y'all can deregulate everything because we own all our stuff now. Yeah. But you can't be saying that right now if you ain't owning nothing. Yeah. What you gonna do?
You know what? Let me say something real quick. I mean, it's a shameless plug in a way, but it's a project that I'm working on, right? It's a documentary. So I'm working. I'm creating a documentary with my partner Annette Banks. Yeah, your guys interviewed Annette Banks.
Yeah, we did.
Six-time Emmy Award-winning filmmaker that is my partner, a good friend of mine. We are. I don't want to give away too much. Okay, we are. We have a person who we have the life rights of in Pittsburgh. He was a civil rights activist, right? So he did a lot of work in Holmes County, Mississippi, and that's where like the first woman started, with voting and, try to register to vote. And they was like, you got to know the Constitution, so she went back home, learned the Constitution verbatim and boom. So, but here's the thing. In Holmes County, right, when people wanted to vote, in Holmes County, they had Black people had the most acreage, right, out of Black people who own land around the country. It was down that way in Mississippi. Now, people who wanted to, when they were supporting the civil rights activists who come down to help with voters registration, right, in the 60s. Well, long story short, the people who owned the land could vote with no problem, right, because they owned the land. Black people who was renting on white people's land, they were threatened because they was like really voter suppression because they would not vote because they would be afraid to vote because they'll get evicted off of their land. And that's how like ownership, and I bring that up because you talked about ownership. Ownership is everything when it comes down to power, right? You got to own your stuff. Like, if you don't own your house or if you don't own, just whatever it is, you don't. Your rights are
you don't have the power.
Seem kind of decrease. So anyway, when they had these people down there, these groups of people who were really pushing voters registration and so forth, when it came down to the movement, they didn't allow those people who didn't own land to really be in charge, because they know that if we have meetings at your house, it will be crushed.
Right.
And also people would probably to try to reserve their own sense of stability and security, they may turn and become snitches, right? Yeah. On us, like crabs in the barrel thing. So instead of doing that, people who own the land, and that's where like the person who, we shoot our documentary about, he went there and he lived on that particular property with this very popular Black family in Holmes County and he felt protected. Now, I mean, yes, he almost got killed by the KKK a couple of times and the police, but it is what it is.
He felt protected, but
because he was on that land. He was there with that family, and that family was like a strong family, strong Black family. Like they called the guy crazy. So because the one who owned that land had like very brothers, but it's all that's in the documentary. But I wanted to just kind of bring that up because it's really important when you talked about ownership and stuff like that. You know, really like if you don't have that, then what do you really have, right?
That's right. That's right. Thank you for that, man.
But that's comedy. We're not even talking about comedy now. You know, we got off of comedy.
But it makes sense.
That's the reality, though.
Yeah. And we are pressed up against the end of the show. We got to wait for Clee. But 14th annual United Nations of Comedy Tour returns Saturday, November 16th, with 4 national comedians.
Yeah, say their names because you say their names.
Yeah, Funny Man Skiba, Jordan Rock, Paris O'Shea, Anthony DeVito at the Paramount Theater. Doors open at 7, show at 8. And tickets are available now. Buy online at UnitedNationsOfComedy.net. Yeah. So Ty, keep up the great work, my man.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. And you never Max, you haven't been in the studio.
No, he say that every time he comes. And I'll be here when he say it.
I haven't seen Max in the studio in forever. It's crazy.
All right, y'all good?
We good.
I ain't made your talk show.
Take care.
All right.